What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate. This is the David Greene Show, and I've got an awesome podcast for everybody. Hope you're all doing well. I am fresh off of the return from Vegas, where I was at the Bigger Pockets conference, this time as a guest, not as a talent. And I ran into an old friend, Jeremy Hunter, who attended one of my retreats in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we kind of talked about his business and how to grow, and I got to know the guy. He's really cool, so I'm excited to share him with everybody else today. I think you guys are going to love Jeremy. He's a property manager in Colorado, and he's been all over the place. He's been in real estate a long time. He's been a real estate agent. He's been an investor. He's managed properties. He's got some good stories, and we're going to get into it today. So welcome, Jeremy. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. First off, how did you like BPCon? What'd you think?
I liked it. You know, it's always good. I've done a conference every year my entire real estate career, and sometimes you learn more than others. Sometimes you just get reminded things and pick up little things. But it was just great to be around other investors, the energy, catch up with people, get you motivated again.
All right, I'm going to ask a real talk real estate question here.
Okay.
I don't want you to feel pressured, but you're welcome to answer. Do you think anybody learns anything at conferences today unless they're a brand new newbie?
Probably not a lot. And that's kind of when I went to retreat a few years ago. That was my first leap to the next level, I guess, because I'd gone to conferences, like I said, for 20 years, realtor.com conferences, when I was at Coldwell Banker, their conferences. And it's like, you're kind of reading the same book over and over at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, like your retreat was kind of that next level of smaller group, more intimate, more in depth on bigger picture stuff, not more general like a conferences. Not that you can't get a lot out of a conference, you can, but
yeah. But it seems to be
you've been to them all.
Yeah, it's like if you don't know anything about real estate, you're like, wow, this is amazing, and then a couple years in, you start to realize this is just the recycled thing I've heard somebody else say.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily going to learn. You're kind of going for fun. And then that's why I figured out this is why they always do them in fun places. They do it in Vegas. They do it in Florida. They do it in Southern California because it sort of becomes an excuse to go have a good time but not feel bad about it. Like what real estate conferences are the Halloween costumes of the world. Like you get to dress however you want. No one's going to judge you because it's a costume, right?
Yeah. But the other side, like you said, like I remember the first couple I ever went to, like the first couple sales conferences and then first couple real estate conferences. Yeah, when you're new, it's like a fire hose, and you're like, well, I don't even know what to do with all this.
Yeah,
so, amazing.
And I also think part of it's because there is so much content out there. There used to not be podcasts. There wasn't as many books that were written. So the only way you learned was you either went to a conference or you had a mentor. Now you can have this in your head 8 hours a day as you're just driving in your car or whatever. So the information isn't always new. So now you got to try to figure out a way when you're presenting or you're making a podcast to get the information through. Like, how do I get it to click in your head what it's going to take? Because you've been in real estate a long time and you've seen the patterns of what works and what doesn't work. So that's a good segue into your story. Why don't you start off telling us, I believe it was in Hawaii when you got started. Is that right?
Yeah. So kind of going quick way back, I tell people I got interested in real estate when I was about 10 years old. I grew up, my family, I don't want to say I was poor. We always had a roof over our head. We always had food on the table, but it was a very paycheck to paycheck life at best. And from time to time, my parents would argue about money. And there was this one day I was outside. Now, keep in mind, no, I didn't know anyone that owned real estate. No one in my family ever owned real estate. So there was this kid down the street. We used to ride bikes and skateboards together. And one day I asked him on like a Saturday morning, I'm like, my landlord's over talking to my parents. I guess the rent's late. Who's your landlord? And he said, oh, no, my parents, we don't have a landlord. They own their house. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, huh? No, everybody has a landlord. And he's like, no, we own our house. And it just kind of clicked with me then. I'm like, really? I didn't know that was a thing. And then it occurred to me, wow, they have nicer cars. They go on vacation every year. They go to private schools. Maybe there's something to this owning real estate thing. And it literally stuck with me from then. And I got into real estate in 2001. I had been an auto mechanic for a little while, became a service advisor after an accident, basically cutting off my middle finger, had to sew it back on. And so I wasn't able to rent for a while, and they put me on the desk, and turns out I was pretty good at it. And I then got an opportunity back in Honolulu I had moved around a little. I get back to Honolulu, and I get offered a job at the Jaguar Ferrari dealership as a service advisor. And I was like, wow, I don't have very much experience. That's my first lucky break. Did that for a couple of years, and that's where I started meeting a lot of realtors. A lot of the top realtors and top business people in town had Jaguars, and I started bothering them like a 3-year-old kid. What's this? How's this work? How do you do that? Tell me about that.
Is there a joke here about the fact that you're a mechanic and all the people with Jaguars were like dropping the cars off at the shop or something? Like, because Jaguars are always breaking, and that's how you meet rich people.
Maybe it was interesting. Yeah, that's where there's a lot of people with older Jags too. Like, they would break all the time, but they didn't care. They're like, no, but I love this car. And there is a whole. We could talk for hours on that, but that's
right. So you're meeting people. There's so many people when I was hosting the Bigger Pockets podcast that had the same story. I was an accountant. All my wealthy clients had real estate. I worked in the nice restaurant. All the people that were coming in ordering steak and lobster, real estate. I was a lawyer. I was what you were saying, you're working in what was the first job you got in Honolulu?
I was a mechanic before that. So it was really when I got
it the service department you said
the service advisor side is when I really started meeting people that were in
front-facing
agents and people that owned a lot of real estate.
Dropping off their nice cars. Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. My thought is real estate is such a powerful wealth driver, mainly just because it is a hedge against inflation, that the country just destroys the value of the currency. And you could buy gold, you could buy real estate, but gold doesn't pay you rent. And you can't use loans to buy gold as easily as you can real estate, and you can't improve gold. So real estate ends up being the thing for the creative people that like to tinker with stuff and play with it. And there's a lot of opportunity in different areas to build wealth. But basically, it's really hard to make houses. It takes a lot of effort. That's why gold keeps up with inflation. It's hard to get it out of the ground versus money you can just print. Do you have a different perspective on why real estate builds wealth so well, being in the game as long as you have?
No, I agree with you on most of that stuff when you go down those roads of real estate. And I have these debates with people all the time, especially now when the market's gotten tougher. Prices are high, rates are still up there, inventory is still relatively low historically. But having been in it for 25 years, even when I wasn't actively investing earlier in my career and I made some financial mistakes and wished I did invest more, I've seen other clients and other people. And over time, it just works. I was actually looking at some data, getting ready to talk with you, and just thinking back to the financial crisis, and I got burned back then myself. Everybody talks about how horrible it was and all these foreclosures, and it was really, really bad. But at the peak of that entire thing, only about 5% of properties got foreclosed on in this country. Mm-hmm. And we don't hear about all the people that bought their house in 05 or 06. They were smart. They didn't have a crazy mortgage. They held on to it. They wrote it out. And 10, 15, 20 years later, they're golden, because they were patient and they were responsible about it.
Yeah, that's when I got in, was 2010. And I was told by just about everyone I knew, you're an idiot. Why would you buy a house? Everyone knows real estate's the worst thing to buy. Just rent. It's safer. And I was honestly at that time shocked at how fast it turned around. Yeah. I sort of had this impression that, man, like it crashed so hard. This is all I hear about in the news. It's going to be decades before we climb out of it. It was literally the summer of 2013 in California. And it went from every house is on the market, no one's buying it. It hit a certain point where all the investors jumped in and were like, oh, it cash flows. Mm-hmm. And in one summer, it went from no one's touching houses to multiple offers on every single house. And it just took off running. And I had actually got so unaffordable, I couldn't buy in California. That's why I went and bought in Arizona. Yeah. And that's when the long distance thing came to be. So that was my crash course in the fact that real estate tends to just be like, it's very harsh. It moves in one direction really quick. It moves in the other direction really quick. And you have to have the constitution, like you said, to hang in there, and it will come back.
Yeah. And I think about the market now a lot, and again, it's all relative, right? We talk about how tough it is. If you got into real estate, 4 or 5 years ago when rates are 3%, and you put 20% down on anything, and you're getting a 10, 12% cash on cash return, and then it went up 10, 15% in the year. that's all you know, right? You talk about Vegas. I saw you there too. I gamble a little bit. If you came to Vegas with me this last trip and you'd never been to Vegas before, you'd think Vegas was the funnest place in the world, because I actually won money every night. Every 3 nights in a row, I won money. So somebody who's never been there before, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah, I've been to Vegas a lot. That's not normal. That's not how it goes. And I feel like real estate's kind of the same for people that saw it 5 years ago. They think that's just the way it is, and it's not. You know, that was the lucky night in Vegas, and you may not see one again in your lifetime.
Yeah, and then you never hear, I guess in Vegas people may say they lose money, but it would be as if no one wanted to admit that they lost money gambling. Because no one if you lose money gambling, you're like, I was supposed to lose. But if you lose money in real estate, you're an idiot. So no one wants to admit that. You only hear the stories of the people that won. Yeah. So you get this impression that everybody wins in real estate and you're the only one who's not winning, and that can be very discouraging. But you've been around for a long time. So, like, what were your thoughts on just, if you could go back, you're in Hawaii and you're realizing people are into real estate, would you have done it the same way you did it, which we're going to get into here, or would you have done anything different?
How much time do you have? No, I would have done it very, very different. So kind of go back to the job I had as a service advisor. Again, in my family, as far as everyone was convinced, I'm done. Like, I was making almost $60,000 a year at 22 years old with benefits and vacation. Mm-hmm. I was making more than most people in my family. And they're like, no, you're set for life. But I knew there was no upward mobility. And I also hated working in a job where I'm a fast worker. When I'm focused, I'm focused. I'd be done with my work by about 2:00 every day, and I'd have to stay there till 5 or 6 o'clock every day. I'm like, what am I doing here? This is a waste of my time. I could be working on something else. I could be hanging out with friends. I could be doing a hobby. So that's where the real estate thing came in. And I was talking to sales agents that were very successful, and one finally convinced me to go. Got my license, got the training, quit my job. Family almost disowned me, thought I was completely insane. And it's a grind. The first year, I made less than half what I was making at my job. The second year, I got almost even. From there, I started really making good money, into the 6 figures in my mid-20s. So that's a long answer to your question. No, I would not do things the same, because when you take someone in their mid-20s who has never had money and doesn't have a lot of financial literacy and starts making 6 figures, not a lot of good decisions are made.
Isn't that the truth?
And there definitely were not podcasts that I could listen to there weren't 3-4 people putting out 2 episodes a week that you could listen to every day in 2003 and 4. There were books out there, there were courses, but you'd have to dig to find them, and they weren't. People don't realize how much you can get for free nowadays. It's just.
I know. Yeah, it's almost a problem that there's so much. I open YouTube every day and I'm like, oh my gosh, there are so many things to choose from, and there's so many videos. It can feel overwhelming, and then you get stuck in the real doom loop where you just can't get out of it. They're just sucking you in for 30 seconds at a time.
Totally. And that's the other side of it, right? There's a lot of really good free information out there, but it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of what's out there is absolute garbage, And so that's the bad side of there being, anyone can record a video or a audio and put it on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple and claim they know what they're talking about, and they don't. So that's scary.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Before we get into your story, what advice do you have for people when it comes to picking who to listen to? Because I think this is pretty important. How did you learn who is full of it and who you should be focusing on?
I look at where they're at and what they're doing and what they've accomplished. I do this in property management a lot, and this is kind of one of my sales pitches in my property management. I own 12 long-term rental doors myself. They are managed in the same system that I manage clients' properties in. So I ask them, who's your property? I hope you interview other people. Ask them about their portfolio. Do they manage properties? And how do they manage their properties compared to how they're going to manage your properties? Because if you work with us, your property is literally getting plugged into the same systems and processes that I use on my very own properties.
Yeah. I mean, was my theory for a long time, because I never managed my own properties. Almost my entire career, I gave them to other people. And I found there was a pattern of two kinds of property managers. There were people that wanted to make money. So they started a business and they said, let me manage your property. And you could get a good one, but overwhelming majority of the time, I got a person that I want to get as many doors under control as I can. And I want to hire the cheapest people that I can possibly hire. And I'm going to let my employees figure out the systems of how to do this. And there was constant turnover, and there was constant, I forgot we were supposed to do this, or I'd be like, hey, did you consider marketing it this way? Oh, that's a great idea. And I'm like, everywhere I go, I end up teaching my real estate agent and teaching my property manager how to, they're supposed to know more than me. I was so frustrated. Yeah. That's why I became a real estate agent, honestly, was I was referring my buddies to agents, and they would come ask me questions and I'd tell them what to do. And they're like, my agent said, you're brilliant. It's like, well, your agent should be paying me, right? So I went and got a license. And then the second type of property manager was the people that owned real estate, learned how to manage it, got good at it, and said, you know what? I'm already doing it. I might as well do it for other people like I do it for me. And those people every time had the better systems, the better pricing. My properties performed better. They anticipated things going wrong. They didn't wait for something to go wrong. They had solutions in mind. They already had the vendors. They had people that would not charge me exorbitant rates because that's who was working on their own house. And that became what I would look for. When I'd interview them, I'd be like, how many doors do you have? If they didn't have much of their own, I didn't care how many they managed for other people. Sometimes the people that managed like 2,000 doors, that just means, oh, so you got 8 W-2 employees that hate their jobs. That doesn't sound like the person I want. But that's an outside perspective. You've been in this a long time. Do you think that there's more that should be considered there?
There is, but you're not, what you're saying is totally true. And I agreed with you. You've preached for years about it is way too easy to be a realtor, and it's way too easy to be a property manager, meaning it's way too easy for someone to get their license and do it. When you're a sales agent, the vast majority of people you're working with, this is the single biggest financial decision of their life. And you've got people that took a 6-week online course and passed a written test, and suddenly they're qualified to do that. Not the case. And then with property management, to me, it's even next level, because now you're managing assets and you're literally handling people's money every month. If you've got a couple thousand doors, you've got millions of dollars of rent coming in that then you're processing out every month. And think about who's doing that for you. What's their experience? What's their systems? I've seen some scary stuff. Back in Hawaii, a couple of companies that went under, and the government takes over to liquidate the company, and the security deposits are gone. $500,000 $1 million.
Oh.
Just gone. They've scammed it out. So, not trying to scare people, but it is, you got to think about what you're doing. And on the other side of the spectrum is the consumer, right? 9 out of 10 inquiries that we get, someone looking for us to manage our property, what's their first question? I want you to rent my property. How much do you charge? That's the same with sales, right? How much is your commission?
Yeah. Oh, my Lord.
Not what are your safeguards? How much do you charge? It's like, well, we'll get there, but let's talk about what we do first.
Oh God, we could do an entire podcast on that topic. Maybe we will. And you know what's funny, Jeremy? I see that thing runs through every element of real estate. And I am not saying this just because I am the guy who charges sometimes, because I'm also the guy that pays. Mm-hmm. So I sit on both sides of this thing. I hire real estate agents to sell my houses in other places, right? And I don't say what do you charge? Or in the mortgage industry, it's what's your rate. Mm-hmm. And we teach on Mortgage Monday all the time. The reason that's such a stupid question to ask is because I can legally tell you, like right now, I could say my rate's 5.5%. Oh, that sounds great. Everybody else said 7. I'll go with you. But what I didn't tell you is that's with 4 points.
Right.
So that's a $60,000 loan, and you're like, you would never do it, right? But if you're just asking, what's your rate? I can say that. Or if you say, what are your fees? I could do the opposite. I could do 0 fees. Well, what I'm not telling you is that's a 9.5% interest rate or something. So it's the same. Like I hired a real estate agent in Florida, and I didn't do the hiring. I let one of my staff do it, and they are a little bit more inexperienced than me. And so he's a charming guy, and he answered the phone right away. And he's like, yep, I'll get on it. And they're used to the realtors that never answer the phone. So they said, this guy's amazing. I'm like, okay. He wants to do a 6-month lease or a 6-month lease agreement. I said, no, I don't know him. I will do 2 months. I want to do 1, but I'll do 2. The guy goes in, I pay him, I think I'm paying him a 2% commission because I'm like, I usually do 3% if they're really good, but I didn't know him, and this was should have been a layup. I priced my house $100K less than all the other homes. It's recently rehabbed. The dude takes pictures with his cell phone, doesn't get the grass cut before he does it. And not only does he take pictures with his cell phone, he puts 7 pictures in a row of the front of the house from all these ugly angles. It is the most hideous. Like if you looked at the picture on my property management page, because it's a short-term rental now, it looks amazing. The backyard's the first picture. We got a sunset, like a twilight look. It looks very fancy. This thing looked like a bag of trash when he marketed it. And it never sold. And I finally was like, I don't get how we're not even getting showings. And I looked at it up on, Zillow, and was like, oh my gosh, my heart sank. But that's an example of like, that's the realtor who says, I'll do it for 1%. I'll do it for 1.5%. That's what they're going to do. And then they're going to not pay any attention. They're not going to be getting information from the other agents. It's really only the top 5 to 10% of agents you even want touching your house.
Yep.
And they're not going to be cheap, but like, this is a $700,000 home, to save 1%, $7,000 to lose $40,000 or $50,000, it doesn't make sense. But you've watched this over time, and you've seen this all the time. And it's the same with management. Like, how does this manifest with property managers? With saying, yeah, I'll charge you less. Are they nickel and diming you somewhere else, or is it just because they're not as good?
It's all the above. So there's a lot of business models. So our company, it's 10% of rent collected, end of story. That's it. We don't do leasing fees. I don't do all these other fees. And then there's companies that may say, oh, we'll do it for 8%. But we have a 20% placement fee when we put a new tenant in. And then we mark up all maintenance invoices by 5% or 10%. They have a lease renewal fee. They have an inspection fee. There's all these other things, and you start adding it up over time. And I'm not putting down any other model. There's different in every industry in this world. There's different models, different fee structures.
Yeah.
But you got to know what you're paying for and what you're getting for it. And that, like you said, it's like with the rate. Oh, I got 5.5%. Well, yeah, but you got to pay 4 points first. Property managers charge 8%, but they're getting you on $3,000 of nickel and dime fees through the year. So,
all right. So you're in Hawaii. You start a property management company there.
So I did. If you wanted, before that, I was in sales for about 9 years.
Selling real estate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Like, when was that experience like?
Well, that was like I said, I got out of the service advisor job and I started selling, and had some great mentors along the way. As you know, it's a grind in the beginning, especially being young. Prices in Hawaii have always been high, So like back in 2002, 2003, our median home price was already like $700,000, So being a 24, 25-year-old kid trying to convince people to work with you on $1 million houses was tough. But I did it. I stuck with it. I did open houses. I did a lot of the referral programs to get my business going, Navy Federal, USAA. That was a great niche I found when I started out, because more seasoned agents didn't want to do them because these buyers, they take a referral fee, right? USAA or Navy Federal is taking 25, 30% of the commission. But even then, I'm like, well, they're taking 25, 30% of the commission, but I'm young. I got time. I don't have other clients. And these are people that have been pre-approved on a loan. They've committed to a move date. They've committed to a neighborhood and price range. So often I'd be showing them houses a few days, and we got an offer. We're done. So that launched my career the first couple of years between that and then sitting open houses. Open houses was a love-hate relationship. I loved open houses. I was very good at open houses. I hated doing open houses. I would pick up a client pretty much every open house I sat, and all my friends are at the beach or at a barbecue or out fishing on a boat on a Sunday afternoon, and I'm sweating in a 90-degree house in business clothes trying to look older than I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, that is so funny, because I was the same way. I did not love people. I didn't love meeting strangers. I didn't love trying to figure out, are you full of it? Do you think I'm full of it? Like, we have to do this awkward dance every single person that meets. You're walking in not wanting to talk to me, just wanting to see the house. I don't really care if you see the house. I just want to figure out if you're a client. It's an awkward thing that we have to pretend like it isn't. But I just got really good at it. And I don't even think I was that good at it, Jeremy. I think most realtors were just so bad I looked, but compared to them, I look good.
Yeah. I've always, so being in the car business before real estate, I didn't do car sales, but I knew a lot of the salesmen. And when I started doing well in real estate, I was still in touch with some of them. They're like, I'm going to get into real estate sales. I'm like, I don't think so. And what I tried to explain to them, what I learned is, to me, real estate sales is not sales. It is customer service. You have clients that have a need. You want to educate them and teach them how to get to their goals in the best way, right? Mm-hmm. So open house, obviously your first job there is to show the house that you're sitting, talk about the features. Then you're talking to people coming in. You're learning about them. What are they looking for? Maybe this is the perfect house, but 9 times out of 10, probably 99 out of 100, the person walking into an open house is not buying that open house.
Right.
So you're meeting them. How can I help you? What value can I bring to you? It's about helping people and learning what their needs are. It's not used cars. You're not going to, what do I have to do to put you into this car today? It's not
right.
It's not how it works.
No, not at all. But that is how they get treated a lot of the time. A lot of agents do that. And to be fair, I don't think most agents understand real estate itself. They don't own it. They don't do anything other than try to sell it. They're more of like persons, I guess. That's kind of why the top ones are so slimy. They're good at reading humans. They're good at pressuring you or luring you or presenting information in a way that makes you feel safe. They don't always understand the fundamentals of it. And so when they would bump into me and I'm like, well, did you know property taxes are higher on this house than across town? Oh, let me tell you how special assessments work. Right. Or did you realize that you can avoid the mortgage insurance on a loan if you go this direction instead of that without putting 20% down? Oh, no one talked about loans. And I would just get I would bring a little bit of doubt in their mind. Oh, your agent didn't tell you that? Or, oh, no one explained it. Why don't you guys come to my office this weekend? Yeah. We'll sit down. I'll give you a presentation. And I probably had a 90% close rate. Once they had the presentation, they're just like, oh, this guy knows a lot of stuff. I feel good. I'm glad I met him. I'll go with him.
Yeah. So that kind of took off my sales career and started doing very well. And like I was saying earlier, doing very well and very not so well in that I'm in the top 5-ish% of agents in the Honolulu market at this point. I'm doing good work. I'm, getting my top producer of the month for the office awards from time to time and all that. And I'm 26 and I think I'm hot stuff and making good money. And all the people I grew up with that said, you'll never make it, you'll never this, you'll never that. Well, is Jeremy taking every dollar he can and investing it into an IRA or into a rental property or into that? No, Jeremy's leasing a fancy new car every year, and Jeremy's taking friends out for dinner and drinks on Friday and taking expensive trips. And I don't think any of those things are on their own bad. I think you need to reward yourself, but what percentage of the budget should that be? I guarantee you I was 10 times over it. And that's the part. If I've done the math and I look back, I could have still had a decent lifestyle, plenty happy, everything I wanted. And from 2003 to 2009, if I just was a little smart, a little conservative, I could have invested $40,000 to $50,000 a year in those years. So that's what, $500,000. Put that at 8% compounded over the last 15, 18 years.
Mm-hmm. But no one talks about it back then. You had to have a mentor or someone that pulled you aside and be like, hey, young buck, you should think about this. There were no podcasts. There was no social media.
Well, so this is how, and I did have that, and I'm very fortunate. So, fast forward through all that, I bought and sold a couple properties. I was proud of myself there. I owned a house at least. I was saving some money. I wasn't blowing it all, but I should have done a lot better. But then comes 08, 09. 08, I still had a great sales year. It was actually my best sales year, ironically, because I was not working with people doing those crazy loans. Mm-hmm. But I myself got one of those crazy loans. It was 06. There was a tough personal time in my life. We won't get into that, but there was a lot of stuff that happened, and I had a lot of changes. And I sold the house I had, and I bought another property. It was a I bought it because I saw the opportunity. This could be a triplex. It was a house that had been added on to twice. And I'm like, oh, this is great. But I'm a sales agent. I'm 1099. I am being legal but aggressive on my taxes, so I don't make a lot of money on paper.
Of course. Yeah.
And you talked about, people that are W-2 don't get that side of things. But, if you're W-2 and you make $10,000, you go to, the one brokerage, okay, you make $10,000 a month. Excuse me. If you're a independent contractor and I make $10,000 a month, well, I have a car payment, but that's a business expense because it's a business car, and my cell phone, and my computer, and my internet, and on and on and on. So by the time that's all done, I only make $4,000 a month on paper. Well, you can't qualify for much of a house in Hawaii for $4,000. So I did a stated income 3-year ARM. Sorry, we're talking about this throat thing. It's getting me a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to give Jeremy a break here to take a drink. We both were at BPCon and caught all the germs from all the people. And I came back with strep throat, and he came back with a sniffle. And so we're fighting through it on today's show.
Yeah.
So you're not able to get a loan to get a house in Hawaii because of your write-offs. And so you did a stated income loan, which is basically like, hey, here's the money that I'm making. Don't ask me any more questions. You're going to get a worse rate. Yeah. Terms are not going to be quite as good, but at least you could get something. And this is how you kind of broke into the real estate market.
So, yeah, I got that, the stated income loan, and I was 100% honest. I stated on it what my gross income was. And this is a great property that I saw could be made into a triplex. Did that. It was a 3-year ARM. At the time, I wasn't worried about it. I was worried about the market. I did see a lot of these mortgages going on. I was like, I watched The Big Short. It's like my favorite movie of all time. So I'm like, I saw this. How did I not know I could have invested in this? So I was prepared that I'm going to, rent these 2 units out, live in one. I'm starting my investment portfolio, putting some money away. And, there's going to be opportunities in the next couple of years. Well, what I didn't take into account is what we all know happened after I bought that in 06 and 09, everything crashed. My rate was adjusting. I couldn't afford the new rate. And I couldn't refi because nobody, even when you remember how that was, people that were in it then, you could have an 800 FICO and a great job, and the banks were still like, I don't know, I'm not sure we're lending right now. It was really hard to get a mortgage. And I ended up having to short sell that house, ruin my credit, wiped through all my savings, and I just started all over, square one in 2010. That was my lesson of, guess I really should have invested a lot more of that money over the last 10 years. But it's one of those things you say people don't talk about that. I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, I don't. People can say, that's the thing with online. People, oh, what an idiot, this and that. It's like, hey, you know what? Lots of people did that. And I wasn't being stupid. I just wasn't educated, wasn't prepared. And I thought by that time, I was doing a lot of things right. I had saved money. I had pulled back my spending. But you got to keep more powder dry than you think sometimes.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's in my case, I've talked about it a little bit. I haven't gone into it a ton. I was preaching this forever and ended up buying a bunch of houses. And, I talked to you a little bit about how the city got involved and said, oh, we don't want short-term rentals in these neighborhoods. And I was like, well, the law says I can have it. And they're like, oh, that's what you think. When you, so I applied for the short-term rental, and they walked through the house and they go, hey, there was a kitchen remodel done here a couple of years ago. No one got a permit. Hey, there was a bathroom put in 1945. Never had a permit. Hey, that garage that you have used to be a carport, and every other house on the street also has a garage, but it never had a permit. And I had like 6 houses in different cities all do the same thing, where there's just like war on short-term rentals that I didn't know I was walking into, where they shut you down and then they never issue permits. And I was bleeding at one point for 2.5 years, $150,000 a month in mortgages that I just could not get any income for, and I couldn't sell the house because of all the permits that I had, and the banks won't work with you. And like, you're so right. Like, if I didn't have an insane amount of savings put away, I never would have survived. Like, whatever you think you need to have, 5x that is what it took, right? And you don't hear about that on podcasts. You only hear like, yeah, buy and then refinance it and buy another one and refinance that and buy 4 more and refinance those 10, and then you have financial freedom.
Yeah. Well, the thing that really upset me about my situation is I've always been a very proactive person. So I kind of saw the writing. I'm like, wow. So one of my tenants lost their job, and then my dad was renting one of the units. He had health issues and couldn't work anymore. So now I'm supporting my dad, and my tenants aren't paying rent. I still could cover it with the money I had aside, but I'm like, well, this rate's going to adjust. It's going to go to here. I can't. This is going to get bad. So I contacted the mortgage company, thinking I'm like, hey, can we extend the rate? What are the options? And this is when all the loan modifications started, right? So I started to try that process. They're like, oh, you need to talk with them about a modification. So I go through the whole modification process, and they're like, well, you're not even behind on your mortgage. And I said, no, I know, but this is going to get ugly quick. So I'm trying to be proactive. They're like, well, until you're 60 days behind on your mortgage, we can't do anything for you. So totally against everything I believe. And, like, I pay my bills. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I stopped paying the mortgage for 2 months, and I refiled for the modification. Horrible process. They didn't have it together. Another 2-3 months goes by, and they're sending me letters. No, don't pay your mortgage. Don't pay your mortgage. Well, after about 5 months, they finally said, oh, yeah, you don't qualify for a modification, and now you need to pay all that 5 months back, plus the penalties.
Oh, man. Yeah, so many stories like this.
I'm like,
losing your mind.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Here's $40,000, and I'm still gonna have, yeah. So, just a messy time. A lot of lessons learned, though.
Yeah, it's so maddening dealing with banks. Like, I know that there's people that have called and said, like, hey, this is a situation I'm in. It's going to go to foreclosure, because like, people call me and schedule consultations and go over this stuff. And the bank goes, okay, here's the deal. You got to be behind, like you just said. If you're making payments, we can't help you. Yeah. So they stop making the payments, and then now they're like in the foreclosure process, and they're like, all right, well, let's do this. Let's work out a short sale, because you're going to take the property back, and you're going to have to sell it at a loss. What if you give me a couple months and I'll put it on the market? Let's work out a price that you would want to take it at. It's way less than if you have to go sell it on the courthouse steps. And the person that you talk to is like, no, you can go touch grass. Like, we're not doing anything. Just, this is the deal. It goes to foreclosure. Right. And the people representing the bank's money, whether it's the banks themselves or who they hired or the policies they put in place, are insanely unhelpful. It's maddening to me. It's got to be because there's some form of protection they're getting from the government, where if they have losses, they can go to the feds and they could say, hey, insure us for the money that we lost so we can keep loaning. And they've got agreements with politicians, which is ultimately taxpayer money that's like paying for a super inefficient system that we've got. But you would think that people as smart as bankers would have better systems in place, and they don't care at all.
No, totally. And when I go back to that time when people talk about mistakes and regrets, knowing what I know now, the only thing I would have done different in that situation is I wouldn't have caved as quick. That's a lesson in ego. I definitely had an ego there, because I'm a pretty well-known realtor in my town. I have been for years. People, pretty successful. And now I'm going to have my name and my property posted as a foreclosure. And I was scared of that from a reputation standpoint. So that's why I decided to just do the short sale. In hindsight, I should have just camped there, because a lot of people were in similar situations, and 2-3 years later, they finally got a modification, and they got it at like 4% for 30 years. And I'm like, I probably could have sat that out, but I was scared about my reputation, I think, more than anything. And that,
yeah, but that makes sense, because you're a real estate professional and you're thinking like, I'm going to have the scarlet letter.
Yeah, well, it's like we're talking about, right? How's your agent doing? I'm like, oh, here I am saying I'm going to be the guy that got foreclosed on.
Yeah,
Doesn't look so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's a real estate, man. It goes up and it goes down so fast. And we had so much quantitative easing, and every single time the economy looked like it was going to slow down, we just said, print more money, shoot it up with drugs. And then we had another run, and everyone just got used to the fact that was normal. People spent money. It was normal to be a 22-year-old with a brand new car and on a podcast talking about financial freedom when you had no idea how any of this stuff worked. You never even filed your own taxes. You're still using H&R Block talking about these real estate strategies that no one even questioned it.
Right.
And, I'll tell you, one of the frustrations I'm having now as the economy has slowed down, I don't even think we're in a terrible economy. We're just not in a really great one. It's not, it could be way worse. It's just kind of like normal hard, like it's supposed to be. Trying to hire anyone that understands you got to show up at work and work your butt off to get above mediocre. Like, working your butt off is not, it's not like you're a victim. You're not even good at what you do yet. That's just normal.
Yeah.
You have to work your butt off until you get good. And then you can either work your butt off and get better, or work your butt off a little bit less because you're a little bit better. But no one knows anything. They don't have skills. They're constantly talking about, like, well, I know so-and-so who makes this much money, so I should. Or, well, I have a college degree, so I should make this much money, even though it has nothing to do with the actual job that they are working in. It's really hard to hire anyone that understands this. And there's all this attention that kind of our current culture will put on your boss should pay you. That's how people look at it. Instead of the client needs to get what the client is here for. You are here to serve them. Your boss is not here to serve you. You're both here to be a team and serve the client. And if you don't have the skills to do that, you're not going to make that much money. And my personal thought is we just became spoiled from 10 years of an amazing economy that now I say this and I sound like the curmudgeon-y old man, like the grandpa on The Simpsons, who's yelling at people all the time.
Well, I'm a little older than you and can get a little grumpier than you on that one if you want. So,
well, if you don't mind taking a break from your story, please share your perspective as someone who's seen more than just the last 10 years on, like, what is appropriate level of work and what is entitled.
So first I have two quick. So first on the quantitative easing thing, you're totally right on that. But with the whole mortgage thing that led up to the crash, I've never heard people talk about it that way, but I feel like that's what it was, because being in the market then. So I started in real estate in 2000. The market was kind of picking up. It had been kind of slow in the mid-90s, late 90s, and it was picking up. And right about 04, you could tell that the market, that was kind of it. We hit the affordability level. Prices had gone up. That should have been about it. But that's when they're like, oh, no, we'll make a way for people to still afford it and prices will still go up. And that's what happened from 04 100%. To 06, 07.
100%. It
was more 04, 06. And then 07, 08 is when those rates started adjusting and everything crashed. So like you said, people, we have been in this culture for a long time of, like, there can't be hard times anymore,
Yes.
So that's that. And then on, like, I think about the last few years with all the crazy inflation, the funniest thing about it to me is everybody and inflation was nuts. No one's going to say it wasn't. But people are like, oh my gosh, eggs are this much. Oh my gosh, bacon. I heard everyone going on and on about how expensive it's gotten. Nobody stopped buying it. If they did, the prices would have stopped going up. It's like, that's how it works. So when times are tough, when things get more expensive, you got to pull back. You got to spend less. You don't buy that as much. And that in this last huge inflation cycle, I'm no economist professional. I don't, but I just saw it so much that it's like, why, if you stop buying stuff, the prices will stop going up. That's just how it works. On to the job thing, that we could do a whole podcast just on that. Couple of quick analogies that I was just thinking of the other day. So I am 49 years old now. Today is my birthday, actually. And 25 years ago, you were a cop before. I'm curious how it was when you became a cop. But so I have family members that were going to be firefighters. I was going to be a cop. That was my plan when I got back to Hawaii.
Amen, brother. You needed to let them have it.
So 1999, I go and I apply and I take the test for the Honolulu Police Department. I passed. Something like 3,000 people tested for 200 positions.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, we'll call you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know when they called me? 2 years. And I already had this other job making better money. And I'm like, I don't think I need to go deal with, drug dealers and gang people, and I'm good. My cousin, firefighter, same thing, early 2000. They opened up 300 positions, like 5,000 people tested. It was almost 3 years before he got called. You can go on and on, plumbers, electricians, all these things. If you want to be a cop or a firefighter now, most places in this country, like, come on down. They're short.
They're begging you. Yeah.
If you want to be a plumber, if you want to be an electrician, you want to be a roofer, you want to be an auto mechanic. I have a family member who, he's about 27 or 8, I think now. And, he got out of school and floating around odd jobs, trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life. Well, he finally decided to go to aircraft mechanic school. I think it was like 2 years to get his certifications. He started in the airline at $80,000 a year. And 1 year in, if he's willing to move, they will more than double his salary if he moves to another location. So 2 years of education, 1 year on the job, and they're ready to pay him close to $200,000 a year at 28 years old. But like you said, who's doing that? That's not what people want to do. And I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, I get why someone might not want to do that at 55. They don't have the same level of energy. Their body can't keep up. That natural ambition isn't there anymore. We're talking about like 22, 25-year-olds that should be working 2 jobs, maybe 3 jobs that are like, make it worth my while to try hard at something. So
right there, you're 25 years old right now. Go be a plumber. Go be a mechanic. Go be a cop. Go be a firefighter. Those are all 6-figure potential jobs in a pretty short period of time now. Live on 60 grand, invest 20 or 30 a year, and guess what? When you're 50 years old, you won't have to be doing it anymore. But that's the age old thing, right? We've when I was a kid, everybody told me, "Oh no, it's going to go so fast. You got to be smart. You don't realize." And that's the thing. I don't know how you ever get that through to people. Because when I was 25, you couldn't tell me anything. When I was 25, turning 50 years old is like a billion years away. And then all of a sudden, it's just like they told you, it's right here. And unless you get a terrible disease or have a horrible accident, you're going to be there in 20, 30, 40 years. And the little things you could do now, buy one house a year for 10 years. I mean, or when you go to buy that first house, that's the other thing. While we're on this soapbox, we could talk about expectations of housing if you want. I have a lot on that.
Yeah. Well, like, if you're thinking about it, let's hear about it.
So I see it in rentals all the time. I'm sure you see it in sales too. The standard of what people think their first house is supposed to be like now is just so huge. I remind people all the time, if you go back to, and it's like what you're always preaching, like, let's say you're a young couple or you're someone that's got their first job and you saved up and you're ready to buy your first house. Well, if you're a couple with no kids and maybe you're approved for $500,000 and you want to get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, I'm sure you'd love to have all that space. But could you get a duplex that's 2 bedrooms and 1 bath on each side and live in one and rent the other for a couple of years and cut your living expense in half? And they're like, oh, it's too small. Well, you go to any town USA in the older part of downtown where we've got these houses we call functionally obsolete, right? The old 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 800 square foot, 1-car garage with a 3x3 closet. People, that's where families of 4 lived.
100%.
And now single people are like, that's too small. I can't live there. I'm like, well,
I know. And another thing, Jeremy, I used to rent rooms from other cops when I owned, and I was like house hacking almost the opposite way. They were house hacking to me. So I would rent a room and I would put my money towards investment properties. I was never home. I was out working a lot of hours. Like, as a young man, you're supposed to be out there learning how to do stuff. Not having a huge house doesn't matter if you're not in it all the time. Right. But I can't remember the last time that I put out a job ad and it wasn't over 90% of people saying I'm looking for something remote. Everybody wants to be at their house. They all want, and so you need a bigger, better, nicer house to be comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to sit up here and, like I said, be the curmudgeon-y old man. But if this is irritating you to hear it, it might be what's getting in the way. You typically don't find successful people that are addicted to comfort. I don't know if I've come across one in my entire career. Successful people are addicted to challenge. They're out there trying to figure out how to be the top real estate agent in Hawaii, how to buy a house and fail and get back in there and do it again. They're not sitting at home looking for the job that's the most money for the least work.
Right.
They're saying, what's the thing that's going to teach me the most to make me more valuable? Like you were mentioning, if you can work on cars, if you can be a plumber, if you can be an electrician, if you can be a cop or a firefighter when nobody else wants to do it, is it going to be harder? Yeah. That means you're going to get training opportunities other people didn't get. Your character is going to be developed. Your skills are going to be developed. Your skin gets thicker, right? I used to work 18, 20-hour days more than 10-hour days. Most of the time, that's what I was doing. And when people would say, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't know, man. The car does most of the work. I'm just sitting in a car, driving from call to call and typing on a computer, right? Like if you look at it like it's not manual labor, it's not that hard. You can get through it. If you look at it like an 8-hour workday is insane and nobody should have to do that and the government should provide all the other stuff for you, your attitude's going to turn sour and your mind's going to work against you learning things because you're going to be constantly looking for a way out of the discomfort instead of a way to get like thicker skin or stronger muscles so it doesn't feel as bad.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing that, and again, it's back to we're the crotchety old men now, but it's like it's not forever. Like you don't have to. You don't got to work in the salt mine until you're 50. You know, if you like work hard, like you said, when you're young, you got the energy, you got the health, so that you don't have to when you're older. And you combine that with the things that you're teaching every day about how to buy a house, how to, save money. You look at the advantages you can get on your taxes, all these things. You do that for 10 years, and then you don't have to do that anymore. And, that's what I eventually did. And I'm in a good place now. I'm very fortunate. I figured it out, in my late 30s, around 40 years old. But if you can figure it out at 25 or 30, you're 10 years ahead of the game, which is what you did, right? You were grinding and doing this in your 20s and not spending a dime. You got it a lot younger than most people.
Yeah.
Some people never get it, though.
So you're selling houses, and at some point you transition to property management. How does that work?
So I had decided, even before the mess with my house, I decided I didn't want to sell real estate anymore. And the reason was I had plans I've wanted to move to Colorado forever. I've just known it's where I want to live.
You just couldn't handle Hawaii. It was terrible.
Oh, yeah. It's just so horrible. Yeah. You're the first one to ever bring that up.
I can imagine. I know. It's like that terrible dad joke that people make and you don't want to make it. And then you find yourself making it. And you're like, what have I become?
Yeah. Hawaii's beautiful, but I've lived there a long time. You get older and you realize what you really like in life. And I love to travel, and I don't want to have to take a 5-hour flight to do it. I love road trips. I love snowboarding. I live for snowboarding. So like, my whole work.
Not a lot of that in Hawaii.
No, not so much. So my whole work, like my life now from December through March, like I'm off grid. I do bare minimum work. I bust my butt the rest of the year so that the wintertime, I literally during the winter, every Monday, I look at the weather forecast and I decide what days I'm available for appointments based on what days it's going to snow.
That's amazing.
That's how my life works. But to the transition, so I had great sales business, was doing well. I wanted to get something that I could take with me when I moved. You know how hard it is to build a database and get a sales, good sales operation started in real estate.
Yeah.
Now, in hindsight, it wouldn't have been as hard as I thought to move somewhere else. It wouldn't have taken me as long. I realize that now. But at the time, I'm like, look how long it took me to get this popular and this well known. I don't want to do that again. And I also thought I wanted to get into like brokerage management. So I worked for that for years. They kept telling me, you don't have management experience. You don't have management experience. I'm like, well, when am I going to get some if you don't give me some? So finally they gave me a shot at it and I hated it. I hated it so bad. I wanted to help agents make deals happen, pull things together, get through challenges. You and I have that in common. I like big picture problem solving. How do let's figure this out. Let's make this work.
Yeah.
And I got in trouble I had one agent who I was working with. She was newer. She was going on a listing presentation up against a big hitting agent. And she's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So we put together, here's what you do. Focus on this, focus on that, focus on the value of the team, focus on the value of the company. Then another one with a deal falling apart that we saved in escrow. Both of them came together. She got the listing. The guy got the escrow. We got 2 deals in the office that day. I'm feeling like $1 million. I get screamed at by corporate because I was 5 minutes late getting a weekly projection report in. And I'm like, well, do you want me to make the deals that I can put on the report and have it 5 minutes late? Or do you want the report on time that has 2 less deals on it?
Yeah. Right.
And the answer was, we want the report on time. And I'm like, I don't think this is the job for me.
Right.
So
yeah, you're not screwing around. You're trying to make the company money.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the money, not just turn in a paper. So it was actually a really another hard moment in life for me because I thought I wanted this so bad, and I was clearly not going to make it in this job. I wasn't happy. So I went to my mentor, who was my broker when I was in sales. He had recently retired, and he said, we should have lunch together. I have an idea, and I think you'd be great for it. Well, he was planning to start a property management company. He owned several rentals. He couldn't find anyone he trusted to rent them, to manage them. And he had retired and wanted to start traveling a lot more and didn't want to manage them himself. So he talked to me about the industry, what he found, what we could do. He was willing to put up a little money for it. He was willing to do the business plan and all of that because I had 0 business experience. But I had the sales experience. I had the customer service experience. He's like, why don't we partner together? I'll train you on the business side. We'll do this. And after a few years, you can buy me out and run the whole show. And that's what we did. We started down that road. And
he said that from the beginning. He said, this is the plan.
Yeah.
Wow. I've never even thought of saying, hey, I'm going to start it. I'm going to teach you how to do it. You're going to do it. You're going to buy me out.
Yeah. Well, I knew him. He was my broker. He was a good friend then, still is. He's he's retired. He's about 30 years older than me. He was a great mentor to me there. He was a great mentor to me on rental properties too. You mentioned earlier, someone I didn't have, there were no podcasts, right? But no, he mentored me and he taught me, and he was just very upfront about, there's an opportunity here. I'm going to put up X dollars. I'm going to give you the opportunity to run with it. And it either has to make money or fall apart, and that's it. And so there I was at square one again, like making no money, taking a $2,000 a month draw when we started this company, living on $2,000 a month in Hawaii. And started running with that company. And I think we got to 100 doors under management in a year. And within 3 years, we were at 400. And then I sold it in 2019 at just over 500 doors. And that was a journey. It was a good one.
What was some of the things that you felt led to the business growing like it did? What did you do well that led that to happen?
What we did, the big things we did well is differentiate how we did business, why we were unique, and the services that we offered. This was in like 2010 we're doing this. We were one of the very first property management companies, especially there. Like the management softwares that are out now were just starting to get kind of mainstream back then, but most people were kind of dabbling with them. They weren't really using them. I use the analogy. It's like an iPhone. You have an iPhone, but if all you do is text people and make a call and maybe take a picture now and then, you're not using the phone for what it's capable of. We took the software and we built systems to use every aspect of the software, from marketing, leasing, accounting, bill paying, inspections, all that stuff. So that was one thing we did really well. The other thing was the reputation we had within the sales, the realtor community, networking with all of them, giving them an option to refer their clients to for property management. And most importantly, being, how protective realtors get about their clients, making it 100% clear to them, we do not do sales. We're not going to do sales. You refer us your clients. They're tagged in our system as your clients. If they even speak a word about possibly buying or selling something else in the future, we're putting them right back to you.
So you built this referral system, basically, of the connections that you'd had in your previous career.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big referral network from agents. I would go to brokers' open houses even when I was a property manager, and got to a place where agents, most of them didn't think that way, right? Again, they just want to sell their listing. But if it was a property we thought would be a good rental, I would just say, hey, would you be interested in what this would rent for? Like, oh, that'd be great. And much like mortgage companies, you'll do flyers for agents to hand out and stuff. We would do that with the rental estimate letter, and we'd provide that to them to hand out at open house. And then it got where all these sales agents are calling us, hey, I got this new listing. I think it'd be a good rental. Can you let me know what you think? And that really helped the growth.
It used to work this way a lot more before. It wasn't before the internet, but before everybody was dependent on the internet. You would ask another human, do you know a person that can do this, right? Do you know a guy?
Yeah.
And so your reputation and your character were your strongest sales abilities.
Yeah.
Because if you did wrong by people, the word got around, that's a snake. And if you did right by people, they're like, look, you got to use Jeremy. This is why. Yeah. The guy was up until 2:00 in the morning working on a thing for me. He didn't stop. It wasn't his fault. He's a good people. This is who you want taking care of your house or your property, your apartment. Yeah. Yeah. Now, way more people are Googling or searching or asking ChatGPT, find a property manager. And so now you're looking at a sales flyer on a screen that is telling you why you should use them with colorful font, like basically all these things that pull the levers and push the buttons in your brain of tricking you. They're not character-based. And it is so much easier to be taken advantage of in this world. And I think a lot of people get taken advantage of and then tell themselves, well, I just failed at doing this. I should quit. But where their failure was where they found the support pieces the wrong way. It wasn't word of mouth. And I do think it makes it a lot harder to make the process work in today's method where, honestly, being a successful business person is often being a good marketer. It makes me sick to my stomach to say that because you can lie in marketing as long as you follow laws. But it's better when you like the best people I found were word of mouth referrals. The best contractors was someone's like, hey man, I'm going to whisper this name. Don't say it to anybody else. This guy's great.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on just if you're going to build a business, do you need to learn how to market online, or is there still a way to kind of do it grassroots style like you did?
I think it's both. I think it's a combo, but I think the grassroots is still very important. And just my personal opinion, I think it's going to get more important. I'm seeing with people like, even now with renting properties, okay, our system is you literally can you can view a property online, schedule a showing, go view it with a self-showing, do an online application, e-sign a lease, pay your deposit, and get keys out of a lockbox without ever having to talk to someone, right? Like you can own the property that way nowadays. The more that happens, the more people want to talk with us, want to meet us. Hey, can we just stop by and, we'd like to see you. So I think there is that there. You're right with AI, that's kind of blowing up right now. I know everyone's freaked out about it, and some people think it's amazing. Some people think it's the end of the world. I know you and Brandon have a back and forth on that.
We sure do.
But the bottom line is we don't know where it's going to go. It's going to take time. And I think back to, again, I was taking my real estate licensing course in the year 2000, okay? For those that were around, that's when the internet was just kind of getting pretty mainstream. Most people were getting a computer. Most people had internet connection, at least at work. But it was just kind of infancy mainstream, Well, it was all in the news back then. It was still largely newspapers and TV. But they were talking about how realtors are dead in 5 years. It's over. In 5 years, everyone's going to buy a house online. You're not going to need an agent. You guys should all get out of the business now. And here we are 25 years later. And here's David with the David Greene team. Very successful Keller Williams sales team. And they're everywhere, right? So how is that going to happen with AI and the next stuff? I don't know. But I just don't think face-to-face. I think real relationships are always going to be important. And for those that don't, I think it's opportunity for people that want to go that way. There's not a lot of people doing it. You want to see someone trip out, send someone a handwritten letter to a mailbox, especially an older person. Like, it means the world to them, Like, what if we went back to that on occasion?
I get that same thing when you call someone on the phone. Some people freak out, right? They panic, they run screaming, they go hide in the corner of their room, and they immediately say, you're triggering my insert new psychological disorder here, that like everybody has sort of grabbed that and made it their identity now, right? Like, hi, my name is David and I have ADHD, agoraphobia, like a long list of stuff they're scared of. But some people are like genuinely confused, like, hello? Like they're expecting a pocket dial or AI to talk to them. And I've literally had people say, is this really David or is this AI pretending to be David?
Yeah. So I'm in that weird age bracket, right? Where like I was an adult, so I turned 20 in 1996. Most people didn't have a cell phone yet. Hardly anybody had internet. And then I started working. So I've gone through the whole, like, I've done the collect calls telling my parents I'm going to be home late, from the mall to now, living on a smartphone just like everyone else. But yeah, the biggest adaptation for me was like a couple of years ago when the whole trend started that like instead of calling, people would text you and be like, "Do you have a minute for a call?" And I'm like, "Why didn't you just call if I didn't if I have a minute?"
Yeah, that's funny. Well, there's like an apologetics. Like, I'm so sorry I bugged you. Is this okay? Because most people only call if it's an emergency.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good thing. Like when you make that effort, it does stand out.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that I'll do a lot of the time. If I'm like talking to somebody who has a cabin in the Smokies when I'm there, I'll message and be like, "Hey, I'm here myself. Does your cabin need anything?" And they're like, "Is this a scam?
Yeah.
Why would you ask?" It's like that old try to be a neighbor to somebody is so foreign. It's crazy how in such a short period of time that just became so foreign that people don't trust it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is weird. And who knows where it's going next? But I'm one firmly that technology is a tool, not a replacement. And we'll have to see where AI goes. I mean, I use it all the time. I just use chat to do a bunch of research for me on the lawsuit thing I'm in. I used it to put together a sample trust for my parents because they don't understand it. I'm like, this is just how easy it can be to, I use it for spreadsheets. I use it for all presentations. It's pretty amazing.
So what you're hitting on is where Brandon and I butt heads about this very thing. And it's all done in good nature. I like AI or any form of technology from the perspective that you are Iron Man, you are Tony Stark, you are the brain, and technology is your suit of armor that allows you to do things that you couldn't do without it, but it's still your ideas. So Tony Stark can come up with a way to send a missile at somebody, but he can't actually do the damage. He has to build the missile. He needs technology to do that. If he gets hit by a bad guy, he's dead. He's a soft human. But if he's got a suit of armor on that he created, he can survive.
Yeah.
Brandon's take, and maybe I'm speaking for Brandon right now, he might argue with this, but the thing I'm arguing against that often Brandon ends up on the other side of is the motive of, I don't want to have to go to war. I want to build a suit of armor. Like in one of the Iron Man movies, it was 2 or 3. He makes little clone robots and they go do it for him. And you don't know that it's not Iron Man, right? Mm-hmm. I don't like that. I don't like the people who are like, oh, I can't wait for AI because I'll just tell it to make me a newsletter.
So go ahead. I was just going to say, the two things that make me nuts about it is nobody retains anything anymore, right? Because so I look things up all the time, but if I'm going to look it up, I'm going to learn it and be like, oh, okay, that's the part that nobody that I see with technology that freaks me out. Nobody retains any information. It's like, oh, I can just look it up. I can just look it up. And yeah, that one's weird for me, but total other thing, total sidebar, other subject, talking about Brandon. I was thinking the other day about, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 years ago on a podcast, and following you guys for years and seeing, everybody's grown, right? You're gone different directions and careers have grown here and grown there. And I was doing a flip on this property that I bought, and it was kind of just the slow flip. It was like just to stabilize it, clean it up a little bit. I knew it was horribly managed, way under market rent. So I was just about finishing that deal. It was an episode where Brandon's talking about focusing on these $1,000 an hour activities. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh, Mr. Big Shot syndicator now is talking about $1,000 an hour. Okay, he's getting maybe a little too big for what I'm at, And then about a week later, when that deal closed, I looked at it and I'm like, wait a minute. I bought it for this. I put this much into it. I don't think I've spent more than, long story short, I netted about 60,000 on this flip. And I realized there's no way I spent 60 hours on that flip. That's $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Oops. All right. Brandon's onto something there. It doesn't, you think $1,000 an hour, it must be like this big, huge thing. It's like, no, this was like a $250,000 flip. And then I did $1,000 an hour. So that's a little hats off to Brandon next time you talk to him.
Yeah, and not everyone's wired for the same things. I think the problem is guys like Brandon, that is a gifted man. I will tell you, when we used to listen to him on the podcast with Josh Dorkin before I hosted it with him, I thought Josh was the smart one and Brandon was a goofball. He comes across as this like lovable, goofy guy. Then I met him in person and he came up with a plan of how I could scale long distance investing, and he like writes it out on a napkin, and he's like a mad scientist with how fast his brain works. And I just realized, oh my God, I misjudged this guy. He is pretending to be goofy, to be likable. He's wicked smart. Like just his brain can't stop. It is so good. And people say this about me too. And I get around Brandon and I'm like, oh, this is how I make people feel. I get it now because I'm like looking in the mirror around him. But that does not mean everyone's like that. Yep. You don't need to be a Brandon Turner with crazy good marketing and really big vision and really big goals. Some people just want to have enough money to take care of their kids and not have to work in the coal mine, like we said.
Yep.
And it's okay to just keep stacking base hits up over a career, like you said, buy 10 houses in 10 years and like kind of be done with it. I think that there's a lot of, well, Pace Morby's doing this and Brandon Turner's doing that. And I got to do the same thing. And you're not built from the same cloth that those guys are. Yeah. You would be miserable to live in. Like, I like to go work out. I don't want to look like The Rock, right? Like, I don't want to work out till I throw up. I don't want to have to pump my body full of steroids until I'm going to die to be able to have that physique. Like, you can be okay just working out without having to go super hard. And in our world that you and I live in, it can be very confusing hearing so many different perspectives of what to do and not really knowing where you fit in.
Totally. And I got that. That was a big thing I was struggling with when I came to your retreat that time. And that, was great to kind of get, because I was like, what's next? Like I wanted to get here in life and I'm here. So like, now what do I do? And so that's huge. But yeah, I think that's a big thing. I don't know where you fit this into all this, but goal setting has become such a huge thing for me, and learning to be specific. And so many people say they have goals, but they don't, right? Yeah. Like, oh, I want to get in shape this year. Okay, what's in shape this year? I want to, I could say, hey, David, help me out. I want to get in top shape by the end of the year. And you'd say, okay, well, go running and do this and that. No. I want to be able to bench press 300 pounds. I don't care how far I can run. Okay, well, that's a totally different workout. That's a whole different thing. It's the same with finance. It's the same with fitness. It's the same with personal growth. It's, what specifically do you want to get to? And be specific so you can track it. And if you don't hit it, at least you know where you're trying to get and how you can adjust,
Yeah, that's a great point. Most people don't let me say it a different way. There is a difference between, I made a commitment to stop saying people don't. I was hearing someone else talk about this on YouTube, and they're like, people are like this. Like, we got to stop talking vaguely. Like, human nature has inherent struggles in it, and it's better to try to pinpoint what it is about human nature that causes this problem than just like, people care about whatever. There is a way of looking at the world where you can want something or you could wish you have it. If you want to bench press 300 pounds, you will come up with a plan to slowly increase your bench and eat certain foods or whatever the case would be. Most people wish they could bench press 300 pounds. So if the bench press fairy came and touched your head with her little wand and said, would you like to receive the blessing of bench? You're like, I will accept that, right? Yes, I will allow you to give me 6-pack abs. I wish I could have them, but you don't want them, because if you wanted them, you probably already have them, if we're being honest, right? If you wanted to be really successful, you'd be getting up early, you'd be working the 2 different jobs, you'd be on the phone all the time, you'd be wheeling, dealing, you'd be going to David Greene and saying, tell me exactly what to do, I will go do it, right? The number of people that come to me and say, I want to be successful versus the people that do, okay, we'll go do these things, even in my own companies, wildly different. What most people actually want is to find a way to make a bunch of money without having to work hard. Right. That's what I found. And so even when they start to have success, like the guys in the businesses that are doing really good, they wilt under like, I got to do this forever. Like, I got to work this hard all the time. I got to have people yell at me this often. I don't want that. And then every time, Jeremy, somebody comes along and offers them a lie. Hey, come join my mortgage company and you can have your own branch. Hey, come join my real estate team and I'll give you your own team, or I'll give you a downlight of people underneath you. Hey, take what David taught you and come work over here. And every single time they collapse when they leave because they were trying to get away from the work, right? And that's not to criticize people that don't want to work hard. Just say, I don't want to be in great shape. I don't want it. It's too much. I want to be healthy. If I can be here, I'll be good with it. And that's the difference between wanting and wishing. And like, just don't trick yourself into saying you really want something that you don't want, because then you end up looking for the easy road out. And that becomes like you take cocaine because you want to feel better, or you join a multi-level marketing thing because it looks like an easy way to make money. And those are the people that end up losing money, unfortunately, from scams.
Yeah. And this is where, like, I don't, it's like, okay, this is where everybody always tunes out, because it's like you always say, it's not sexy, it's not exciting. But the facts are that, you have to, first of all, you have to work to make money. That's like step one. You got to work, you got to make money for finance, right? You got to work, you got to make money. If you want to get ahead, you got to spend less money than you make, and you got to invest the difference. And then you got to have patience and be smart with it over time. And how wealthy you want to get depends on, well, how hard are you willing to work and how much are you willing to give up lifestyle for future benefit? Working out, you want to get in shape to run a marathon, you got to start doing more cardio. You want to get stronger, you got to lift more weights, or you got to do more reps. There just is, there's no easy button anywhere. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's
yep.
And the thing is, as you get, again, I'm in that like midlife, whatever, it's like, it's time. And if the younger you can start, you're going to be 40, you're going to be 50, you're going to be 60, you're going to be 70, like we were saying. You just got to do it. And if you don't do it, the sooner you do it, the better, but it's also never too late, right?
Yep. That's a great point. And we don't mean to talk about this in every show, but it's just because if you're looking for the person who says, here's the new hot strategy that's working for everyone, it doesn't work for everyone. Everyone gets there and in 6 months it's gone. Yeah. Those people just got your money because you joined their program or you paid to learn their secret and you realized the hard way it didn't work. And that's $10,000 less that you have to actually put into a deal to make it work.
And the other side of that coin, even if you are the 1 in a billion that you win the lottery or you get some big inheritance, or, if you don't learn these things, you're going to be one of those people that won the lottery and is broke in 2 years, I mean, how many celebrities, sports people, music, rock stars and actors that, made millions and then are bankrupt in 5 years. The metrics, the fundamentals, you got to have them. And I think that's more important to get younger than maybe even making so much money, because this is actually a great point. I'm sure you guys see this at the TheOneBrokerage too, because I've seen it with real estate clients and I see it with rental applications all the time. You have this rental and this couple comes in and they're like, oh, we make this much money. And, I'm a doctor, my wife's a lawyer, we make $400,000 a year, we're good to go. You pull their credit and they have no money in the bank. They have $150,000 in credit card bills and they have, 2 $1,200 car payments. Well, the average person looks at them and thinks they're doing great. They're not. They have no net worth and they're in debt. Then you get this other single person that comes in and applies and they look very conservative and they're, driving their 10-year-old Toyota Corolla, and you run their credit and see their bank statements and they got a 780 FICO and $100,000 in the bank, and they make $50,000 a year. Well, it's not all about the income, is it?
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, there's an analogy there. I used to work out like an animal and I was lifting really heavy and working out twice a day, and you got to eat a lot of food. And then you get used to eating that food and then you can't work out that hard. You go the wrong direction, right? You can get used to making a lot of money, but if you don't learn how to limit how much of it you're spending, when you got to pay your taxes or when the economy turns around, it is really hard to scale back from driving a Mercedes to going back to a Corolla. If you just always drive the Corolla when the market shifts on you, it's not that hard to adjust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate your time today, especially with your throat fighting you the entire
Yeah, you too. Maybe we can get together another time when we're not both coughing every 5 minutes.
We are absolutely going to do that. Any last words of wisdom you'd like to leave the audience with, as well as where they can get a hold of you?
No, just do the things. There's no easy path. Just got to do the things. And best way to reach me, if you want to check out my website, it is ipmgj.com. There's a link to my Instagram profile there as well if you want to check out what we're doing property management wise. And great to talk with you.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. And if you like today's show, go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram that says RE Space Pro, where I'm going to be putting a webinar together where we talk about exactly what we talked about on today's show. How you can take your real estate business and build a slow, steady, and predictable wealth building machine that will function like a financial fortress, not a get-rich-quick scheme, so that you become the tortoise that outpaces everybody else that's trying to be the hare. Jeremy, thanks for being on today. Really appreciate it. Your courage and your friendship. We'll do this again.
Thank you.